Hey, there he is. How you going?
Not yet. Hang on.
Good.
My internet is still slow as dogs. Hang on 1 second.
The story continues.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
How you going? I see you're in a very different room, Joe.
I am. We're still trying to work out exactly where and how I'm going to do podcasts.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Yes. In the new house at least.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, we're going to get into that in a second. And I guess welcome to the show, everyone. So what we've decided to do is we spoke before the show and we said we're just going to start recording from the go. So what you guys are hearing is the first time that we've spoken to each other since our last episode.
Yep.
Usually it's preluded the show by a bit of legally dubious chat where we discuss clients and things. So yeah, we're going to be a little bit careful, Joe.
I will not say bad things.
I'm just trying to find the date of our last episode.
October, right? Was
last year. It would have been around there, but it was definitely last year. It feels like ages ago.
It does.
Yep.
Lots of things have happened.
Yeah. So, Joey, you're in the throes of a new house.
Yeah, we're pretty well in. It's 99% renovated, and I have almost have a pad of concrete down for the new workshop.
Okay, cool.
It's sitting there waiting. Concrete's coming on the 27th, and all the steel and foundations ready, just waiting to go. So
Happy days.
So let's go back to last year. So where I remember us last year, you were, I think you weren't even settled on a property
possibly
when we talked last year. So, and I think you've dropped off social media a little bit. So
much.
I remember at the end of our last podcast saying, "All right, Joe, we'll talk again next week. Make sure to keep us up to date with what's going on," and then you didn't. So,
Well,
I've got no idea what's going on.
I kind of did. It's all Brian's fault.
It's my fault.
Yeah.
All right,
Nice, welcome back.
I'll take that.
No, Brian said something in one show. I feel like it was a show or an after talk or something, and he said something like, "Just post." It was about posting work. I think I was complaining about the type of work I was getting in.
I know what you're going to say.
And Brian said something along the lines of, "Just post pictures of the work you want to do.
Yep.
When you get it, obviously, then you post it, and more of the same thing kind of turns up." And it kind of struck me, and I thought that's such a simple, smart thing to do.
Has it worked though?
And well, yes and no. I mean, I on one hand, I thought, I might try that, and then I was in the throes of just getting all this cabinetry work, and I was like, well, I'm not going to post anything for the next 2 months by the look of my work coming in. So kind of just turned off all my notifications and just forgot about everything. And it's been bloody awesome. I felt great not having to deal with any kind of social stuff. So and then recently I've started getting a whole lot of people saying, "Where are you? Are you okay?"
Yeah, I'm not
What are you
surprised.
doing?"
Yeah, I think you've had a mental breakdown or something because you're not posting on Instagram.
So I've started tentatively posting some more things, but I've got some cool things to post. I'm just waiting for like you can post stuff immediately, right? As soon as something happens, but actually sometimes it's better to wait and get the full picture before you post stuff too early.
Yeah.
And it's a bit disjointed. So I think I've learnt to be a lot more patient with what I post on social, and it doesn't matter if I'm 3 or 4 months behind before I can actually get a finished picture of something out.
Yep.
It's definitely a balance because you want to stay relevant. Well, when I say you want to, if you want to pursue it, you've got to stay relevant. But yeah, there are guys out there who post occasionally and they do well because everything's gold.
Yeah, I'm definitely not fussed about what happens with my social I don't care about numbers. I haven't looked at any of that for ages. And really am posting stuff that when I'm really happy with something, I'll post it. And the same goes for videos. I've just started today filming a video for the first time in, I don't even know, 6 months or 7 months or something.
And you've done nothing on the house?
No videos on our personal house renovation. I think I will cover some of the shed build, but again, all that's happened so far is we've dug a hole and put some steel in it, and there's 30 seconds of a video. So, and I haven't actually filmed any of the shed build yet because it still is not. To me, the actual building of the shed is pretty boring. It's like 1 minute of a video if you were going to do it. It's what happens inside the shed possibly might be a bit more worthwhile to some people.
Remind us, Joe, what size is the shed?
It's 200, just over 200 square meters.
All right.
So I think it's 17 by 12 and a half, or something
nice.
like that.
It's a nice size shed. I was just watching a video from Scott Turner up in Townsville. He's sold up, moved north, and he's just laid a slab and put on a big shed that they're living in, and essentially doing what I'm guessing you've done. So
we do have a separate. We bought a property that has a like a farmhouse on it. We've got 5 acres, and there was a not so flat spot which we have turned into a big flat spot, which is will be where the workshop is. So quite separate from the house, which is perfect. Originally, we were going to try and do some weird thing where we live in a giant shed and have half of it at a workshop, and just
I remember that.
Yeah. But just nothing really worked out. So we actually bought this property without seeing it. It was like the day before we went into lockdown here in Auckland. That's how long ago that was.
You're not allowed to use the L word.
Yeah, and
that's right. You'll trigger me.
We bought it without being able to see it. So it's all worked out. So that's good.
So what's the house like? Is it
It's
4 bed?
pretty,
3 bed?
It's a 3 bedroom. It's 100. I don't even know how big it is. It's not that big. It's 140 maybe square meters. It's in like a 1993 built, so everything's a bit dicey. It's not great, but it was in a condition where we could buy it for a reasonable price and still reclad it, put some insulation in it, paint it, build a new kitchen, all that kind of stuff.
Have you had any major material issues? I mean, that's kind of what we spoke about for the last 2 years, and I've kind of been watching the Scott Brown videos where he's been trying to get plasterboard for his house.
Yeah, can't do it.
Yeah.
We purposely chose to do it this way because we didn't have to build. We didn't have to buy tons and tons of materials.
Right.
We were able to secure enough sheets of plasterboard and have it stored here before we needed. And I think we kind of got the last pieces that were around in this area. And we've just built a deck, and we couldn't buy any structural timber for it. We've had to use like fencing grade material.
All right.
Wow.
But we just got to do what you got to do if you want a deck. I'm not going to wait around for 7 months for someone to cut down a tree. So
yeah, Robin, you keen to go halfers on a shipping container full of plasterboard? We'll make our millions selling the Kiwis.
Yeah. I watched that video from Scott Brown.
Yeah, with the milk carton one.
Fascinating, really interesting. It's a pity about the cost.
Yeah,
because it is such a cool solution. But yeah, it's amazing the lengths that people are going to now.
Just to give anybody that hasn't seen the video, it's called Save Board, I think was the name, and it's made from crushed Tetra Paks, so milk cartons. And I think it's just heat pressed, isn't it? Like there's no binding agent or anything that brings it together, and then they just put paper. I think they now have a product where it's paper on both sides, so it is actually a plasterboard replacement, but it's about double the standard cost of plasterboard, but you can buy it.
I think the downside to that, or should I say the downside to the plasterboard situation in New Zealand, is that because there's a monopoly, the company Jib have the monopoly.
Talked about that.
for the last ever, for like as far as I can remember. It's probably from the 60s or 70s. Everything to do with the structural element of a house is based around their product, jib board, and most structural bracing in houses is made from jib board, believe it or not. And
Really?
So, yeah, and so you can't just bring a product to the market without completely changing how houses are designed.
Oh, right, yeah. That's a good point.
Everything relies on the bracing units you can achieve by screwing off a sheet of jib at 150 mil centers around the edge, and it creates a certain amount of bracing units.
But is it just normal gyprocs? Because there's no structural rigidity in a piece of gyprock.
Nope. No, they
Yeah,
do put some
that's interesting.
fibers and stuff in it, but
Okay,
it's
so it might be
completely ludicrous that all our bracing systems rely on plasterboard, where everywhere else in the world seems to do anything else but.
That is bizarre. I did not know that.
No, it's pretty crazy.
The other
So
thing
that's
you
why
mentioned.
there's a monopoly.
The other thing you mentioned
'cause-
as well. Oh, sorry, you go, Joe.
Yeah, no, go for it.
The other thing you talked about as well is that the way you cut these other products is different. You can't score and break,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
then adds cost on top of that. Yeah. So you've moved into the house. What type of renovations have you done?
Completely painted. We extended a little bit. We had to extend a small part of the building where the kitchen's going because it was rotten. All the cladding was rotten, so we pulled all that off. Put new insulation in, or put some insulation in. There was none. Put new windows in, double glazed windows, and
How did you manage getting those? I believe Windows
we
is
had
a
ordered all
worldwide
that.
problem.
we had ordered all of that and when I finally were able to get to the house, it was there's a 4-car garage on the property, and it was just chocker with all the stuff we needed to do the renovation. So we're, like I say, we're pretty much there. It's just all the finishing things which I haven't got around to doing, skirting boards here and there, paint here and there, all the parts that take forever and you never really want to do it. So
All at the end of the job. Yeah, cool. So where are you working from then?
So I have to travel currently to my old workshop, which is 35-40 minutes each way, which is a bit of a pain in the butt, but it's not forever.
What's the
So,
kind
yeah,
of
still
the kind of
at my workshop.
timeline you're expecting for the new shop? Another 3 months or 4 months or?
Yeah, it's probably 3 months.
Yeah.
The slab, like I say, the slab's going down at the end of this month, and the builders say once the shed kit set arrives, it's like 2 weeks and it's finished. But getting the last few bits, because some of the materials have got to come from China, I believe,
Oh dear.
and that's what the hold-up is. And they get about 2 days warning that the shipments are going to land on the at the port, and then it's kind of all guns, come to the site and get it sorted. But until they get that 2-day warning, they've got no idea when the pieces of the shed actually arrive. So it's just a bit. But I've got to be out of my old workshop in August, so
Plenty of time.
yeah.
Can I ask you the dimensions of the workshop? What did you say it was again?
I think it's 17 by 12 and a half.
Did
Could be
you
17 and a half.
did you decide that based around a machinery plan? Is that the kind of proportions that you'd like your workshop to be, or was it just what fitted within the contours of the?
Yeah, there's a bit of both. I wanted it to be square originally. I'd drawn it out and laid out. I'd drawn all my tools and SketchUp and moved everything around how I think it would probably work well. I also wanted to lay it out in a certain way which needed more of a square than a rectangle.
Your current workshop is rectangular, isn't it?
It's very rectangular.
Yeah.
It's very narrow
Yeah.
and long, which means we have a giant runway,
Yeah.
which is not great. So once we got here and were able to do the site cut, and we had to change the size of the workshop a little to fit between a road and a big bank dirt bank we have. So it's kind of, that's the dimension it can be. And the biggest hold-up has been actually getting our paperwork for it. We've done most of the work to date has been done without consent, and we finally got the consent through right as the builders were needing to get an inspection on the foundation. So it's been a bit of touch and go, actually.
Did you just go ahead with to retrospectively inspect or
we
get
had
approval?
Our engineer come along and look at it as we went and make note of it, and then they retrospectively sign it off once they have a piece of paper to sign.
Risky.
Well, it is a bit, but we've got to do something. We're not just going to sit on our butts for 6 months while the local council decides what they're going to do.
And when you know what you're doing, it's a calculated risk.
Yeah, it definitely was a calculated risk. But like I said, I was fairly confident because we had the geotech engineer was here. He saw the diggers digging the holes. He saw the steel going in, made notes, and so everything's documented, and he's happy to sign it off. And at the end of the day, as long as you've got a qualified person who's happy to sign your work off, then that's it.
How much customization have you done, or is it just going to be a shed? Like, have you got floor boxes in for power, or have you tried anything like underfloor dust or dust collection? Or
I didn't want to do anything. I think I messaged you guys to say I was a bit in shock that we suddenly had to pay an extra $50,000 for our concrete slab.
Extra 50 G's? God, I missed that message.
No.
Whoa.
And that pretty much took out all our contingency fee was gone.
Yeah.
So there's no extras. It's just I mean I should send you a picture of it. The steel that is in our slab is so over-engineered.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. You could probably build a 4-story building on it. And there's like 20 mil steels all through it. Like, gone are the days of 12 mil steel. It's 20 mil now.
All right.
It's outrageous.
Wow.
Well, a tip from watching the Scott's Turner build: when the stuff arrives, make sure it's all there, because he got all arrived, and then the next day it's him filming, going, they missed a couple pieces. And it's the first pieces that you need, the connectors to put the posts into. So
right.
Double check.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
And in terms of the jobs that are coming in at the minute, are you getting enough furniture work to sort of keep you interested, or is it mainly joinery stuff, mainly kitchens? And
I've taken on. I had a big cabinetry job back when we last talked, and I'm finally being able to work my way through that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of been good in a sense that it just gives me something constantly just to chip away at, because there are no super rush, and I've got somewhere to put all the finished cabinetry. So that's kind of cool. I've taken on another fairly large cabinetry job just because it's a really odd challenge, and I thought I'd give it a go. Some curved cabinets and really odd shaped pieces, which I thought, why not? But at the same time, I've had a decent amount of furniture come through. I've got some good furniture pieces lined up, although I just, before we started, got a new price increase for hardwood. And it's looking a bit ridiculous, and I'm not sure that some of these jobs will go ahead now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I've got to try and find something I can build with that's not so imported, but
it's getting like that here. Like, I'm gonna have to raise I've kind of kept my pricing, apart from my bespoke pieces where it's obviously priced based on the timber on the day, but like my standard range of furniture, I'm gonna have to increase by between 5 and 10% 1st of June. It's just wiping out my profit margin now.
Yeah. It's the cost of, I've had 3 I think this will be the 3rd timber price increase in a year, and I just saw, I think I saw 40 mil thick rough sawn oak is now $10,000 a cube, which is what I used to buy like wingy for.
Alright.
Like, it's so expensive. I'm not sure what. The problem is, we've talked about it before, so I don't have much option.
Yeah.
If people want hardwood, I can buy Tassie oak, but not enough people know about it, and everyone's put off by the pink colour immediately. And it stains up fine, but you've got to have some samples ready to go, otherwise people just don't want to know about it.
Speaking of wood prices, I recently purchased a piece of spotted gum for an axe handle, and I got it from a sawmill, and I went to the front to pay for it, and the guy took the docket and he looked at it and he said, "This is $50. Do you realize that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's all right." In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, "Holy crap, that's a lot of money." And he says, "Yeah, most people have a bit of a wobble when they see that's how much it is." Now, I appreciate that spotted gum where I am, and we'll get to that in a second, is quite expensive, but $50, it's unreal.
What was the size of the blank?
So it was a meter by, it was 90 by 45.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's pretty
okay.
pricey.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, with that in mind,
Yeah.
sorry, you go, Brian.
No, I was going to say, fill us in where you are.
Yeah. So, in the beginning of this year, I made my way down from Townsville to just south of Hobart. I drove down, and it was amazing. It was an epic trip, because I was trying to get here. It wasn't a holiday. I was just trying to get here. I did 6 or 7 hour days to get here, and it was 3 nights. Also did the ferry from Melbourne into Tasmania, that was also a real experience. And yeah, I moved into a new place when was it? It was March, beginning of March, and it's great down here. It's so nice to be able to enjoy some cold weather again.
Oh, hang on. It's only May. Just get your thermals ready, Robin.
I'm holding up a pair of very woolly gloves that I'm showing the guys, because I went for a run this morning and it was a few degrees. It's a bit of a shock, but man, it's so cool. But on the way down, managed to stop in at Bryan's place, saw the workshop,
Awesome.
saw the very now not so secret piece that he presented. What was the event, Bryan?
The John Wardle exhibition.
Yeah, there was
relatively useful. Yeah, as part of
relatively useful
Melbourne Design Week.
Yeah,
Yeah, you arrived at
amazing
exactly.
table.
I think you arrived. It was the night before I installed it, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah, the van was parked outside.
Yeah,
ready
you
to
helped
load
me.
up.
You helped me flip the top and do some last minute touch ups, and yeah, it was flipping hectic at the end.
Yeah,
but
so I got to meet Bryan and his family as well, which was amazing. So thanks again, Bryan, for
not
showing
a
me
problem.
around. I also got to experience Melbourne traffic.
Oh, it's great.
Do you know? So I went back to Bryan's place. I met his wife and his little boy, that was really special to meet him. And then after that, Bryan was going out to movies with some people, so the two of us went into the city. Well, no, it wasn't even the city, was it? But it was, relatively cafe-ish type area.
Yep.
And we drove in there. We walked to the theatre, and Bryan said there was a restaurant or something that you could go to. By that stage in the day, from all the driving and having to do Melbourne in the afternoon, I didn't even go for anything to eat. I just got straight back in my car and went to the beach nearby, where I could just go to the beach, because I was done. I don't know how people do that driving every day of their lives.
Yeah, well, like I've kind of moved away from it a bit this year. I got an e-bike that I ordered at the end of November. It finally arrived in January, and I've been cycling 3 to 4 days a week, and it is so much more enjoyable.
Awesome.
Good bit of rehab for my knee and a nice break. So, and we've had an amazing summer in Melbourne. It's been, when the rest of Australia feels like it's been, Eastern Australia's been underwater, we've actually had a really, really nice summer here. No major storms, no 40-degree days. We've been very, very lucky. And start of winter has been glorious, so long may that continue.
Yeah.
But you're loving Hobart life? Like, is it what you expected?
It's really good. It's really good. So before I moved up to Townsville, I was living in Adelaide for a few years, and I fell in love with the place. Adelaide's still number one in my books. This is like that, but just it feels like a little bit more regional country. So it's really good. The whole culture down here. This is my vibe. These are my people. This is what I want. I try to.
What part of Hobart are you? Are you in Kingston, are you?
Just south of Kingston, in an area called Margate.
Oh yeah, I know Margate. Yeah.
It's Hobart's a city. Hobart's a big city. It's obviously much bigger than Townsville was. And when you're driving in Hobart, you feel like you're in a big city. You go 20 minutes south to where I am, and there's paddocks. We're right next to cows. You're in what feels like real farmland, and it's amazing. It's amazing that you get that variety just outside of the city. I remember up in Townsville in Queensland, it felt like you had to drive hours to get away from things. Everything was far apart.
Right.
So from that perspective, it's very cool. Really like the people here. I try to meet up with Laura, not last week, the week before. We kind of missed each other, so I didn't get to do that. Duncan Meerdings already sent me a message to say come around to see awesome. the shop. So I feel like I'm getting the opportunity to meet a lot of people here, which is great. And one of the reasons we took so long to get the podcast back up and running is I said to the guys, I'm not doing any woodworking yet. I'm trying to get signed up to the men's shed just around the corner. I've got one of the best men's sheds in the country, I believe, just around the corner. But they run a very bureaucratic operation, obviously. And I've had to jump through so many hoops to get in there.
Hopefully they're listening to this, yeah.
and everyone I've spoken to, I've said that's absolutely fine. I realize you guys have processes and I've got to abide by that, but I'm not allowed on the tools yet until I get someone to sign off on my competency. Which is, it's again, I understand the process, but it's really tough when I walk in there and I've got to be reschooled on everything that I know how to use.
Yeah.
So I'm
slowly... It's always a tough position to be in because you also have your own little quirks about how you use tools and stuff, and it might not be the exact gospel of how you should do it, but it's still just safe enough, good enough. And that's when you often just have to bite your tongue in those situations and all right, let's try your way.
Yeah. So we're making an axe handle. Well, I'm making an axe handle with the help of someone. And what's been quite interesting is seeing the different ways of doing it. Yeah. I immediately went to the bandsaw to round out a piece of stock, and he said, "No, let's use the jointer."
Right.
To cut the corners off, which was interesting. But yeah, so now I'm finally, this Saturday gone by, I finally actually did some work on that axe handle. So now I can bring some woodworking to the podcast again. It's only been 4 months. I miss my tools. I want to go back because they're all in storage in Townsville. I just want to go back and give them a hug and check on them.
Can you explain to me what the gist is with the man shed? Is it essentially, once you are given access, can you go and use it anytime you like to build whatever you like, or how does that work?
So yes, to answer the question, you pay a monthly fee, an annual fee, and you it's a not-for-profit organisation, so you chip in for the tools.
Right.
You get access.
Can you give us a rough number of what it costs you a year?
Yeah, so it's $50 a year.
$50 a year.
That's nothing, yeah.
No, it's nothing. It's depending on where you go, and from what I've heard, I've really lucked out because this is a good one. There's tools. I walk in and there's industrial thicknesser, jointer, table saw. I did my first table saw cut on Saturday, which was pretty cool. Bandsaw, belt sander. That's the woodworking area. Then you've got a metal working area with mills, metal lathes. This one's then got sewing, jewelry, just any tool you can pretty much think of.
Oh, cool.
And it's there. However, the catch is you've got to get one of the mentors to show you how to work with it, which is good at the same time because you learn.
Absolutely.
And then you can access it pretty much all day during the week, I think. So I'll eventually be able to go on my lunch breaks, and then midday on Saturday.
Very cool.
That's pretty cool, man.
So I remember the Australian government were doing a big, they did a big funding drive on things like men's sheds for mental health for men, right? So there are some pretty cool men's sheds around. But that's really good that you can get access to it beyond just the weekends, or, that it does give you a proper number of hours to be able to make your own projects.
Yeah. It's a really good vibe.
It sounds like it's fairly, spread across Australia. Is it like government funded at all, or is it completely a private thing where?
No, there's a lot of government funded ones.
Right.
I think it was probably under the Labour government. Well, we're not going to talk politics because there's an election coming up, but I think it was the Labour government. They started to look into men's mental health issues, and they found that men's sheds were a great place to just get people together.
That's an awesome idea.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure there is good state and federal funding for it.
There is. They've explained some of it to me come election time.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing they had was a whole 20 by 20 meter asphalt parking lot built.
Wow.
They get a lot of grants, but then they give back to the community as well. So this one's got a giant kitchen, industrial kitchen, and then they do Meals on Wheels or whatever the local one is. They do all the cooking and then send it out. I'm on the government website now. So every men's shed can apply for grants of up to $10,000 to help with well-being activities, events, shed improvements, tools and equipment. That's pretty good. Yeah. It does have a bit of and everyone there is 50 plus.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's aimed at a specific group of people who are retired. When I go there on a Saturday, there's no one there because everyone goes during the week. So
do you think it's aimed at that age group, or do you think they're the older people who are taking advantage of it, rather than younger people aren't aware as much? Or
well, I said to the guy who showed me around the first time, I was expecting this old, stuffy, dusty room with tools, but it's not. Everything's clean, it's well run. It could easily cater to all ages. Mm-hmm. But I think traditionally it's had that old, stuffy, old man shed feel.
Dartboard on the wall, Pirelli calendar hanging up.
That's it. Just rampant sexism everywhere. Yeah. And that's why today you don't see many young people there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not cool, huh?
No, absolutely not. And also, you've got to share tools. There's always going to be a part of me that's like, oh man, I just want to go out and do what I want to do. It is a shared space.
It's funny though, isn't it? Just with the naming, like a men's shed has real connotations to it, obviously about men, but just the shed. Whereas if you change just the name to maker space, the type of people that it would attract, complete demographic change.
You would probably push away the older fellas, though, I think, huh?
Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've grown up in a very respectful family, so when the old guys they tell me things, I'm always going to be on the not the back foot, but I'm younger than you, so I've automatically got to respect, even if some of what they say to me I don't agree with.
Yeah,
this is I'm the youngin here.
Yeah,
but I imagine if you had all these young bucks rolling in with their newfangled technology and processes, you would scare them off.
Oh, I don't know, but then you get an old wily character to properly cut them down, and like I look at sort of my mentor that taught me furniture at uni, and I could imagine him in a men's shed tearing some young guys a new one when they bring out a CNC or something. He's like,
yeah.
I felt so bad because I've told the guys there I have these tools. I've worked in these workshops, but I've got one of those little lunchbox thicknesses. Here they've got the industrial one. So what's great is you have the guys teaching you how to use the machine, because even though you've used the machine, there's always these little
not that
idiosyncrasies.
machine.
Not that machine, right?
Yeah.
So I go to use the thicknesser, and he says to me, "So you're okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I put this board in, and I haven't set the height adjustment correctly. The board runs through, but I haven't set the height adjustment. I must have taken off a 5mm chunk of spotted gum. I could just hear the motor winding down and just chunks blowing into the dust collector. And I didn't even want to turn around and look at him, because I could just picture him shaking his head going, this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it's taken me a few months, but I'm finally back into some kind of woodworking.
Nice.
And hopefully it'll just progress from here.
And your wife's pretty happy that it's not underneath your living room, right?
Yeah, and I'm only really going once a week, so it's a lot less, yeah. But yeah,
Right.
Bryan, where are you up to?
So yeah, my summer was pretty much taken up with the project for the Wardle exhibition. So, it was a conversation that kind of started mid-November, that John had this idea that he wanted. So John Wardle is an architect, a very successful architect from Melbourne that I've done a bit of work for in the past, and he wanted to do an exhibition with another designer, and they designed a range of furniture, a range of kind of homewares, vases, and put it on for Melbourne Design Week. And Melbourne Design Week is in March, and it went from being an idea in kind of November to a fully delivered exhibition of maybe 15 pieces of furniture, made by every one of them made by a different maker from Melbourne and Tassie. I think there was maybe one rural Victoria, but a lot of people we've had on the show, Laura, Adam, my old intern Vivian, people like that. So yeah, it was an incredible. And Simeon made obviously an unbelievable cabinet for anybody that's seen it. So yeah, it was flipping hectic. The exhibition was sponsored by Hydrowood, which we've spoken about a bit before in the past. Timber harvested from the bottom of a lake in Tassie. So the concept is that the water's so dark and cold that it prevents the timber from rotting, and you end up with a really stable timber despite the fact that it's been underwater. The timber that was donated or that was supplied for my project was supposed to be all leatherwood, and leatherwood is a precious timber that you can't really harvest anymore in Tasmania unless a tree comes down because of the honey industry. So bees obviously take the nectar from flowers in leatherwood trees. So this lump of leatherwood arrived, bowed and warped and twisted and rough sawn, and I had I'd allowed for maybe a 20%, and maybe even more. Maybe I might have even allowed for 30% more timber, and it arrived all rough sawn. I let it acclimatise for 2 weeks in the workshop. Nice warm days, not too hot, and then I started to just plane it just to see what was underneath. And a lot of the timber had this crazy spalting through it. Some of it was myrtle, it wasn't actually leatherwood. But you couldn't tell until you sort of started to take it back. And then I was kind of going, there's not enough timber to do the top and the legs and the frame and the sliding tray on it out of leatherwood. So there was a lot of back and forth conversations with John, who was in Europe at the time. So there was nighttime Skype calls about, do we switch the top to a blackwood? Is blackwood going to be too close to leatherwood? And yeah, the deadline was ticking. So we ended up doing the legs and the frame from leatherwood. And the legs were, the project, my piece was called In Clover, and the legs were clover shaped. So it was pretty complex. It was a lot of discussion with Jem from Like Butter on how we were going to achieve this without having to go to a 5-axis CNC. So it was made in 4 segments that kind of got milled on one side and clipped together with lamellars. Then you'd unclip, rotate, clip the next side in, and then it built up the clover profile.
That, I saw that being made, and I was like, okay, yep, that's a difficult part. it wasn't until I saw you never actually showed the scale of those things. They're massive.
Oh, they're pretty
those
big. They're
legs.
150 diameter.
Yeah, and that's a really big part.
Yeah.
Which obviously helps to some degree. It helps for machining because you've got a bigger piece to hold and to work with.
Exactly. Yeah.
But still, they're really quite chunky legs.
They are. Yeah, it was sort of one of the main features of the table that it kind of looks really well like grounded and like big elephant legs on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the leatherwood had so much movement in it that you'd glue the stock up that needed to be completely square because it had to be true because every side that was machined, it couldn't be glued together and then machined. So I'd glue, I think it was 2 pieces to each quadrant. So yeah, 8 pieces per leg. I'd glue them up. I ended up doing them in a vacuum bag towards the end, which was brilliant for laminating them. And you glue them up, leave them, come back the next day, and they've moved like 0.5 millimeter. And I'm like, well, I can't, like, literally that 0.5 millimeter is not going to come out. So I'd then have to joint them again, get them all square, and the size started to come down and down and down until I had literally no stock left on the widest part of the clover. And I'm like, oh God. But thankfully Jem and his machinist Johnny did a really incredible job on it. And yeah, I had God, since the last time I spoke to you guys, I took on an intern. So it was a fairly short-term thing. Basically, friend of a friend of mine, he messaged me in December saying, can I just come in and have a look at the workshop and have a chat? He was sort of interested. He's a bike builder by trade. Sasha the German, bike builder by trade, and he was just interested in sort of getting to learn a bit about furniture. And he's like, can I just come along and shadow for a day a week or something? And I'm like, well, I've literally just had this mega project land on my feet and I'm not going to be able to physically do it by myself, so yes you can. So yeah, he worked with me for 3 months, just finished last week, and now he's taking a sabbatical to Germany and coming back and hoping to start his own furniture thing here. So he's got all the gear and just yeah. So that was a really good experience. My first male intern. So yeah.
We've talked about this on the show before, how you've always had female because there's a humility. I think it's kind of what you alluded to.
Yeah, I think they're just more prepared to ask questions a lot of the time if they don't know how to do something. I find that there's a question will be asked, whereas I've just always been paranoid. I've seen the way other I've got to be careful what I say, the way some other furniture makers work, and they just push things through and they either put themselves at risk or just spoil a whole load of timber. And yeah, when it's an intern, like, you just got to be so careful with that stuff. So yeah, he was brilliant. Worked on a couple of really cool projects. The Wardle project obviously went really well. Everything was delivered. I think I finished at 11:30 p.m. the night before the piece was being shot for the catalogue, and then had to go and make some extra touch-ups on it, and finished about 10 p.m. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't 10 p.m. It was just after you came into the workshop, Robin. And then it was delivered the next day, so it was super tight deadlines. And the exhibition went on for a month, and the piece sold, which was pretty cool.
No, really.
Awesome. So I got to deliver it into its new space, and it's now sitting very happy. And there's a potential couple of other tables coming as well from it. So, but now we have to work out. We can't get leatherwood anymore because that was it. Right. It's done. So yeah, they're all going to be Tassie oak.
I saw that pile of leatherwood / myrtle.
Yeah.
And it was, you've seen rough sawn, but the next thing after rough sawn is just a pile of junk. And it was like, it was moving towards that category because it was just bananas.
It was like the pink was like a luminous pink. So yeah, it all ended up with the Victorian Woodworkers Association. I spoke to Hydrowood and they're like, yeah, we want it to be used. So yeah, their students are using it. I think it's still great. Like if you want to make a box or something out of it and make feature panels, but to actually make a large piece of furniture out of it, to make a tabletop out of it, it was really, really hard. Definitely the best timber that I've ever worked, like the best Australian timber. It just milled like butter. But yeah, I was kind of happy that it will not be coming back into the workshop anytime soon. And yeah, other little pieces. I did a little sort of Japanese inspired coffee table that had Danish cord shelf in it and a charred top. I'd never done the Danish cord before, so that was pretty cool.
Have you not done it before?
No, never done it before.
I swear the first time I saw it was one of your pieces, but that's not true then.
No. So yeah, I switched. I learned from Modanest, Modanest is his Instagram, and he gave me lots of pointers. Supplied the Danish cord as well, which was great because it's actually quite hard to get in Australia.
Would you recommend it to someone? Is it a relatively simple? Because
it is really simple,
straightforward.
Yeah.
But I would imagine there's curves.
Totally simple. And anyone can do it. You don't need any special tools to do it. You just need your hands and what I learned later, gloves, because you will blister the absolute shit out of your hands doing it. But that design, it was kind of, so the top has a taper cut to it, so it's kind of like the wings of a plane in section, and I wanted the shelf to have a taper, and the idea was I was going to put dowels and just wrap it around the dowels. And then when I spoke to different people on Instagram, the advice was ditch the dowels and just clad over solid plates for the shelves. And I wouldn't have really thought to do that, and it worked really, really well. So it meant you could really pull on them to get the tension right without bowing the dowels in. And then it would have caused the Danish cord to gather towards the middle of it where it bowed. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's really just about the technique of knotting it and hiding it, and because that's not one length of cord. So there's probably in that piece maybe 15-20 lengths of cord, because of the wrap that you have to do to wind it round and pull through the cord. If you had that as one length of cord, there's probably I'm trying to think how much I bought. I think I bought 80 meters of it. So there might be 25 meters, 30 meters of cord in that. So yeah, it's a lot to pull through and wind it. So you sort of build it up in sections, tie it off, and use a block to kind of tap it down and get it all really nice and tight. But yeah, it's a really nice, like, it just adds a really simple texture to the piece. So yeah, I'd be keen to use it again.
I have a interesting table job which I've just started. That's why I started filming this, because I thought if I'm going to completely turn something into firewood, it might as well be on video. So I've got to do an oval torsion box with like essentially sticks for legs coming out the bottom of it. Very specific to fit my clients' chairs that they have.
How big a table are we talking, Troy?
It's only 2 meters by 1.1.
Yep.
The legs are?
And the legs, so if you imagine the tabletop is oval, imagine that there are 6 legs in oval shape, but condensed down into a much smaller oval in the middle of the table. So that way you could fit chairs in underneath.
It's straight over my head. I don't get it.
So I'm holding my hands to make an oval shape.
Yeah.
And then if you make an imaginary line much smaller that is oval shaped, inside that shape of the table, and then there will be just legs sticking down, a little oval, an oval stretcher down at the just off the ground to hold all the legs together. The trick is, so the problem with this job is similar to Brian, what you were just saying, is that the client has got this timber from this totra tree, which they cut down before they shifted house. And so there's a finite amount of timber. The table has to be 1.1 wide. All of the slabs are 1 meter long. So
Cool.
I didn't realize that until I started cutting it. I thought they were all wide enough. So I've got to magically find 100 mil of length to my timber. So I'm coming up with some kind of plan for that. But yeah, just making an oval torsion box is throwing up a bunch of little problems about how I do things.
So are you going to do it with like a 1-to-1 print out template, or are you going to map it out on
I'm going to
an MDF
tomorrow,
or something?
hopefully, I'm going to cut a full-size MDF template of the
Yep.
main tabletop, and then from there I can just draw lines in from the edge about where my rib cage needs to be and where my solid timber edging needs to be. And yeah, I learnt some lessons doing my last torsion box table, so I will hopefully make a much better job of this one. And so yeah, I'm just going through that problem of how do I make this small amount of wood do everything it has to do. Where do I get all the parts from? So
Totra, that's a New Zealand native, right?
yes,
Yeah. What does it look like?
it's like it's very buttery. Actually, it can be red, can be reddish,
Yep.
but it's typically the stock I've got kind of pale butter through to a reddish colour. The stuff I've got's kind of knotty and has some bark inclusions here and there. Just so typically the trees grow very tall and straight, and you have really clean boards that are just perfect. But obviously this was just a tree in someone's backyard that had never been pruned properly, and so we've only got the lengths that we have got, and so it's just a matter of.
Is it the sort of thing that, like, can you buy veneers of it or not?
No, but I'm making my own veneers.
Right. I was going to say, could you buy veneers, like, and even if they're to veneer the bottom of the table and then use their own tree to do the top of the table, that's not an option?
I could probably do that, and thanks for giving me the idea.
No worries.
It doesn't solve my main problem, is that the lengths that I have are still aren't
wide enough for the
long
table.
enough
Yeah.
to go across the table.
That's a real trick. Well, could you do it with a seam in the middle of the table and use like a feature
That's an
inlay or
option.
something running the whole way
It's
down?
an option, but it might. At the moment, my plan is to build up. So what I wanted to do was run solid timber around the edge of the table,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're looking at the top of the table, you would see a small ring of end grain. So when you're looking on the side, the solid timber would be placed so you see vertical grain all the way around the edge.
Okay.
And now I'm thinking that if my ring of solid timber around the edge was really wide, and when you're looking down from the top, you have like a 50 mil border all the way around the table of end grain, and then the veneers will fit on the inside of that, and I can use the CNC to cut the perfect oval in theory.
Yep.
And then lay my veneer inside of that.
So you're going to cut the curves out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I have to make a giant segmented ring all the way around the outside of the table in solid.
Did you see Simeon's one that he did a few weeks ago? I don't know how removed from social media you are, but I think it was just in his stories.
No.
He was doing a round table and building it up in multiple solids and faceting it. It was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
So the whole table is solid segments?
Around the outside edge, yeah.
Oh, around the outside, yeah.
But yeah, it was a really neat system. It was a big table. Maybe have a look back on his Instagram and see if it's there as a post rather than a story.
I understand. I've done it on a circle, and I understand how to make segments on a circle. I don't know how you go about working out angle cuts for segments on an oval, because it's always changing. So I think it's a case of making it up as you go along,
and just making it oversized enough that you can. Yeah.
But I also want I was thinking about if you're looking down on it and you see the segmented ring, essentially.
Oh, you want it to be nice and even, and
you kind of want the miters to be reasonably even.
Yeah.
And that's the angle. I don't know how you work that out on an oval.
That sounds like a CAD job to me.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I was just looking at Simeon's Instagram page,
Is it on there?
The 10th image down is when he was on the show last year in June. And I distinctly remember Simeon saying he loves Instagram stories because you can put anything up and then nothing gets... There's no accountability for it. So if you post rubbish on there, then it's not part of his brand.
I've done the same thing as that. I have massively cut down on my posting.
Because since the 10th, or since June last year, he's only posted 10 pictures.
10 pictures, yeah. That's the mark of someone who's got enough work.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about round tables, did we talk about that table? I can't remember who did it, but it was the kilometers and kilometers of veneers that got wrapped in a circle.
Oh, the hydrowood one. That was
hydrowood,
I
right?
think we talked about it, but I think we've all seen it, obviously.
Something I don't understand about that is that center is going to expand and contract, right? There's different masses in the middle compared to the outside. How does that internal circle not get locked in place by the outer rings? So
I reckon it's just the gluing area. So it would have been probably epoxied, and it's the gluing area because the expansion across the grain. Oh, hang on, let me think.
Well, how big is the... I didn't actually notice a solid ring. I thought it was veneered all the way down to a point.
Oh no, it was, but that veneer is still going to move, isn't it? Or is it?
But it's on its edge. Like you're talking about, essentially, if you take a flat sawn veneer and make a strip of it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's all going to be up and down.
The grain is now quarter sawn and then when you turn it on its edge, it's going to want to expand in its thickness, not in its diameter.
Because that was an idea that
for anybody who's looking or hasn't got a clue what we're talking about, it's called the Recoil Table by Brody Neal.
The name. Okay.
Yeah.
Such a cool idea. I made a circle table a couple of years ago, and that was my original idea, was to have just rings.
Right.
From
That's
the stock.
Right. I remember you talking about this.
But I couldn't figure out from an expansion contraction perspective, and admittedly those would have been 20 mil thick, so
these are super thin. These are like,
there would still be mass in there, but
they're like 0.6 veneers or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
So at that point you're just not allowing it to
essentially
contract.
He's just made plywood. I mean, that's all it is at that point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what way the grain's going, there's more glue than wood, I would say.
Yeah. If it's like 40 mil thick or 35 mil thick or something, there is a lot of glue area. Yeah. It's a wicked table.
It's unreal, man.
I tell you, the whole Melbourne Design Week thing, that was here for it, but there's a lot of stuff that, like, I worry a bit about the future of design. And you know me, like, I'm kind of into slightly bizarre contemporary stuff, but there was a lot of stuff that is going to be ending up in a scrap heap.
Oh, you think just because of the construction?
No, not because of the construction. I think, I mean,
design.
I would say poor quality design, a lot of the stuff.
Okay.
Like just practicality, it's not going to be able to work in its environment.
Not that. I just think stylistically, there's a lot of stuff that was sort of very in vogue and, like, you know. We did an exhibition with Craft Victoria a few years ago called This Is Not Memphis, and it was all about, like, a critique on the whole style of Memphis, like the sort of 70s, 80s, 90s, kind of like just weird shapes and weird colours and totally unpractical stuff. And it was we did that exhibition when it was starting to come through in furniture, and now I look at it and it's like, it is everywhere. And it's being lauded. It's yeah, I wonder if it is just a phase that will disappear, or whether it's sort of here to stay. And it's just, I find it very sad. Like, I find that the thing that's always excited me about furniture design is the I don't know, the whole process of going between a big idea, the material, and then the craft skills required to produce it. And this seems to skip a whole load of those steps.
All right.
But yeah, I'll be interested to see if we get any negativity, because I'm not naming people by name or anything, but
No.
I was just very shocked. Like, the shows that I saw at Melbourne Design Week, there was just a lot of repetition, I felt, in terms of that kind of stuff.
Is there a particular element that you can...
I'm not going to name names.
Well, no, that's what I say,
I
not
just can't.
names, but a particular element in terms of a particular style or particular part of the styling or design. Or is it that too specific?
I think it's going to get me in trouble, Robin, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Send me some
Enough
pictures.
said.
I'm interested.
Yeah, maybe we'll take this one offline. But yeah, it's just that whole Memphis style, and yeah, like,
Right.
it's funny. Like, when I studied architecture, you know, you've got to study every, even if it's not a style that you particularly like, you know, you study modernist, postmodernist, all that kind of stuff. You still had to respect where it had come from. Whereas I look at Memphis furniture, and I don't know what the point of it is. I don't see redeeming sculptural qualities. I don't find it as an interesting play on materials. I don't even find it funny, a lot of the stuff. Like, if it's just going to be a one-liner joke, like it's going to be Damien Hirst or Tracy Emmett or something like that, just being a funny statement, fair enough. But a lot of the stuff I just don't get. I just don't get it. Maybe someone can hit me up and explain.
You're getting old, Brian.
Maybe. But
I think if there's an element probably of, if it sells, let's make it until it doesn't sell.
yeah,
Unfortunately.
that's what I find so disappointing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it is just cycles, and you know, fortunately, we're still in a country that has a very strong furniture maker scene with unbelievable makers in it. So there's still some really good stuff coming along. I just feel sad that it doesn't get the eyes on it that I think it deserves, because you've got something big and blue and triangular beside it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Let's take it offline and I'll name names.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that about the design in Australia. I feel like and this is coming back to just the podcast in general, the podcast last year took a very different turn. Well, it's pretty much as soon as you jumped on, Brian. The quality of the work that we're talking about and the quality of the people that we're talking to has gone in a different direction. And since our season last year, I've been looking at my Instagram feed is filled with beautiful work. Not just work, but it's beautiful things. And it's been such a pleasure to be part of this podcast, to have been brought into that world. You know, like that piece that I saw in your workshop, Brian. Those sorts of pieces, this podcast has sort of pushed me into, and it's been really cool. I hope that the people who are listening to the show have been on that journey as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
I agree. It's like a different upward trajectory of just thinking a bit more. I don't want to say grandiose, but maybe just thinking a bit more. I'm not sure what the term is.
Constantly evolving and pushing what you can and can't.
Pushing what you can, I think, because we all get stuck in a comfort zone, and definitely having Bryan on board definitely started pushing me into thinking a lot more differently about what I actually want to make for myself, rather than just what I'm paid to make.
Yeah,
it's obviously tricky because this isn't a visual medium, but yeah, like I've always looked at. I've been fortunate just to meet people at shows, and by living in a city the size of Melbourne, you know, there will be obviously more furniture makers here, but just through meeting people, talking to people, and going to their workshops, I'm seeing work that I haven't seen online, and I'm like, why don't these people have a platform? So hopefully the podcast does just throw even just a few more eyes on their work, because they're just, you know, solo makers, men and women, in workshops producing just unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
I'll end with a funny story, because you always love my counterfeit stories.
Sure.
So the new quarantine facility in Melbourne that has recently opened, as part of the whole COVID thing, to replace hotels. It opened, and now it's effectively closed because they're not quarantining anymore. But anyway, may get future use down the line, who knows? But they posted photos of it online, and a government project has just specified counterfeit Le Corbusier sofas in every single one of the suites.
Really? Nice.
Like, they've literally, it's a criminal offence, like, you know, and it's been committed by government subcontractors. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of it. It just published in The Age, like, it was on the front page of The Age. I clicked on it, and I'm like, please tell me that's just a dodgy render. And I looked at it, and I'm like, no, that is an actual photo.
Surely they wouldn't have known, because they just looked to the catalogue and bought the thing, and
but again,
the sofa, whatever it was.
This is just the kind of nonsense that exists in this country with counterfeit protection. It's like, to a layman, that sofa has probably been viewed 1 million times in, like, I don't know, psychiatrist waiting rooms or something, and they're not going to pay however much. I don't know what a original Corbusier sofa cost, maybe $50,000 or something. So they're used to the idea of that sofa, but for it to actually be signed off for a government project, like, it baffles me.
Yeah,
so,
that's odd.
Yeah. I'll post it. I've been meaning to post it on my Instagram stories. I'll give it a post tomorrow and see what you guys think.
Sure, let's do that.
Cool. So that was the first very unscripted, very off the cuff episode. I think that's probably the one of the looser episodes we've done, and I think we'll stick with this format for the rest of the season. A lot of the comments that I got at the end of last season was people, and this is sort of reading between the lines, is people just enjoyed us talking.
Yeah.
You know, the content is obviously a part of it, but it's more just about having three familiar voices. So we'll stick with it, and we'll go to it. So I'm super stoked to be back and talking. It's been a very long time. So we'll leave it there, and we'll do twice a month. What are you guys feeling?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's do twice a month. Cool. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you in the next show.
See ya.
See you guys.
Do you know what I've just realized? I don't even think I've used the word Shop Stool Podcast once in this whole episode.
Good.
That stays in.
We are winning. All right. See you guys.